Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Swiss. Nice little Tuesday. Finished plus 0.69 units, starting the week off with back-to-back winning days. Loving it. Let's keep the positivity rolling into Wednesday. We got 15 games. I think I'm going through 9 or 10 of them in this video. We got 2 live shows coming tomorrow, one at 11 a.m. and we'll go through the day games, and then we'll be live again at 4 p.m. to go through the night games. So, let's do it.
Welcome to the Swiss. The Swiss. Hey, get the Swiss.
First up, Colorado at Washington. We got Rockies, Nats, Peter Lambert pitching against Jake Irvin. This one opens up as an even pick'em, minus 110 across the board. Total opens up at 9. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and we got 4-3 Nats after 5 innings according to the model. We're looking at a 5-5 tie after 9 innings. So Peter Lambert was having a rough season out of the bullpen, but check this out. Since being moved to the starting rotation, he's made 2 starts and he's been solid. He actually hasn't let up a single run yet. You can see every single statistic looks much better in his 2 starts compared to his action out of the bullpen. To be fair, his 2 starts were against the Tigers and Marlins, but still, looking at a 6.89 ERA, 6.28 FIP, compared to a 0 ERA and a 2.78 FIP. So he's been much better starting games. And not only has he been good as a starting pitcher, but he's also been good on the road this year. Just take this man away from Coors Field and he can pitch. You can see his splits here. An 8.10 ERA, 7.23 FIP at home in Coors. Away from Coors, 2.79 and a 3.85 FIP. So much better on the road. And then you add on the fact that the Nats haven't really been hitting right-handed pitching. In the last 14 days, the Nationals are 18th in WRC+, 21st in isolated power, and 18th in on-base percentage against righties. So everything looks great for Peter Lambert in this spot until we take a look at his righty-lefty splits. You can see his WOBA and his WHIP significantly higher against lefties. Reason I bring that up is the Nats are set to start 6 left-handed bats in their lineup in this one. Overall, though, I think there's enough evidence here to count on Peter Lambert to pitch a good game in this one. On the other side, we've got Jake Irvin, and we've definitely seen some improvement from him. He was struggling for a while. You can see in his last 7 games, he's got a 4.10 ERA and a 4.68 expected FIP. The previous 5 games before that, 8.41 ERA and a 6.48 expected FIP. So we're definitely seeing huge signs of improvement from Jake Irvin. And he's been particularly good at home recently. Take a look at the numbers from his last 5 home starts. 3.14 ERA, 1.12 WHIP, 4.33 FIP. So everything's looking pretty good for Jake Irvin here. And to take it a step further, he's been very good pitching in day games. This is a 12:05 Eastern time start, so definitely a day game. You can see at night he's got a 5.77 ERA and a 1.51 WHIP. Those numbers dropped to a 270 to 125 during the day. Even more good news for Jake Irvin, he's pitching against the Colorado Rockies, and their bats against right-handed pitching in the last 14 days, dead last in WRC+, 29th in on-base percentage, 18th in isolated power. So I know a lot of people are going to look at these 2 starting pitchers, and they're going to see Peter Lambert versus Jake Irvin, and they're going to immediately think over. I'm feeling the opposite. I actually like the spot for both of them. I'm definitely going to bet the first 5 under 5.5 in this one for sure. As we take a look at the bullpen matchup here, in the last 14 days, there's no question the Rockies have outperformed the Nats. I mean, the Nats bullpen is just bad. In the last 14 days, Rockies are 4th in ERA, 10th in expected FIP. Nats are 30th and 29th, so no question Colorado has the huge bullpen edge. But instead of trying to take a plus money shot on Colorado, I'm just going to play the under both ways. So give me the first 5 under 5.5. I also think I'm going to play the full game under at 9.5 as well. Next game. Marlins at Rays. Sandy Alcantara pitching against Zach Eflin. Tampa opens up as minus 145 favorites here at home. Total opens up all the way down at 6.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got to lean on Tampa here. According to the model, we got 3-1 Rays after 5 innings. Final score 4-2 Rays. So I'm sure you've heard by now, Sandy Alcantara is having a rough season. And I mean, to be honest, it doesn't even seem to be getting better. You can see his numbers here from his last 7 starts in comparison to the first 13. ERA is about the same, but WOBA significantly higher, WHIP significantly higher, FIP a little higher as well. So it's definitely a rough time for Sandy Alcantara. Hope things turn around for him, but it doesn't get any better when we take a look at his splits because this is a road start. You can see, again, the ERA numbers are close, but look at the WOBA, look at the home run numbers, look at the FIP. Sandy's definitely been better at home, and that dates back to last year too. Sandy was better at home. Now, I know Tampa's lineup hasn't exactly been lighting it up recently. In the last 14 days, the Rays are just 17th in WRC+, 20th in isolated power, 20th in on-base percentage against right-handed pitching. But we've seen Sandy struggle with Oakland. We've seen him struggle with Washington. I really don't think we could trust him in this one. On the other side, we've got Zach Eflin. And remember, he spent 6 or 7, might even been 8. I think it was 7 years with the Phillies. So he's familiar with this Marlins team, and his last 4 starts against them weren't good. His last 4 starts against Miami, he's 0-3, 7.32 ERA, and a 1.43 whip. That being said, basically everything else is positive for Zach Eflin in this spot. This game's at home in Tampa, where he's been a monster all season. You can see on the road, he's got a 5.36 ERA, 1.28 whip. Those numbers at home drop to a 2.10 and an 0.80. He's been absolutely dominant in Tampa this year. And the Marlins bats shouldn't be scaring anyone right now. In the last 14 days, they're just 25th in WRC+, 30th in isolated power, dead last, 20th in on-base percentage against right-handed pitching. You can see the last 5 righties to pitch against the Marlins, they combined for 27 1/3 innings pitched, 2.63 ERA, and a 1.02 whip. Want to know who those ready starters are? Check this out. Chase Anderson, Peter Lambert, Dakota Hudson, Miles Michaelis, and Kyle Bradish. Those 5 names have a 2.63 ERA in the last 5 starts against the Marlins. So I think all signs point to Zach Eflin absolutely dealing in this one. And then we look at the bullpen numbers, and no question, Tampa has the edge here. On the last 14 days, Rays are 6th in ERA, 4th in expected FIP. Marlins are 15th and 20th. I would love to take the Marlins at plus money here. Trust me, I would love to do it. I just can't get there. Fish have not been playing good baseball recently. The price on the full game is scaring me a bit. So I think what I'm going to do, I think the best angle here is play the Rays in the first 5 minus the half run. You can get that around minus 110 on most books as I'm recording this. Next game, Kansas City at Cleveland, Royals Guardians again. We got Alec Marsh pitching against Gavin Williams, battle of the rookies. I have no lines and no total open for this one yet as I'm recording this. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. According to the model, if these 2 guys pitch, we're looking at 5-2 Cleveland after 5 innings. Final score 7-4 Cleveland. Obviously, I'm going to skip this one for now. I'll save it for the live show tomorrow at 11 a.m. That being said, I'm considering going back to Kansas City here. It's going to be their 3rd time seeing Gavin Williams already. In his first 7 Major League Baseball starts, 3 of them are against the same lineup. So I don't know. I'll see. I'll let you know on the live show. Next game, Seattle at Minnesota. We got Mariners Twins here. Bryce Miller pitching against Joe Ryan. Twins open up as very slight favorites here at home, minus 120. Total opens up at 7.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got a lean on Seattle in the first 5. 3-2 Mariners after 5 innings. After 9 innings, 4-4 tie. So check out the crazy home away splits we've seen out of Bryce Miller recently. His last 3 road starts, he's got an ERA at 9, a WOBA over 400, 185 whip. Compared to his last 3 starts at home, 1.98 ERA, 2.48 WOBA, whips under 1. So he's been struggling in his recent road starts. I mean, to be fair to him, he was on the road in Baltimore, at Texas, and at Atlanta. Definitely a tough stretch of road games. But now he's pitching in Minnesota, and the Twins have been great against right-handed pitching. In the last 2 weeks, Twins are 3rd in WRC+, 3rd in isolated power, and 4th in on-base percentage against righties. So it's not like things are going to get easier for Bryce Miller here. And on top of that, Bryce Miller's been a lot more susceptible to left-handed bats. You can see his splits here. WOBA's up, whip is up, expected FIP is up. He's definitely a lot more dependable against right-handed bats than he is against lefties. Twins are going to be starting 7 left-handed bats in the lineup in this one. So I think all signs point to Bryce Miller getting hit up by the Twins in this one. I will say we've seen a few righties pitch really well against Minnesota recently. Castillo, Giolito, and Cease, those 3 guys combined have a 1.50 ERA and a 1.11 whip, and all 3 have pitched against the Twins in the last 5 or 6 days. But before we just go and hammer the Twins, we got to take a look at Joe Ryan stuff, because there's some concerning numbers here. First of all, his last 2 starts against the Mariners, he's 0-2 with a 6.23 ERA and a 1.38 whip, so he has not been dominant against this lineup. And just look at his last 10 starts as a whole in comparison to his first 10. I mean, his ERA jumps from a 2.21 in the first 10 starts to a 5.65. FIP is almost double. No, FIP is more than double. Home run per 9 is multiplied by 4. Went from 0.6 home runs per 9 to 2.4. So Joe Ryan has not looked like Joe Ryan recently. And we're seeing the same pattern when we isolate it to just his starts at home too. I mean, his first 5 home starts, he had an ERA at 2.35, 191 FIP. He was absolutely dominant, looking like a possible Cy Young candidate. In his last 5 home starts, 4.73 ERA and a 3.78 FIP. Which isn't terrible, but it's just not what we were seeing from him earlier in the season. Now, some good news for Joe Ryan is he's been really good against left-handed bats, and Seattle starts 5 of them daily. You can see his splits here. WOBA's down, home runs way down, FIP's down a little bit too. So he's been better against left-handed bats, which should serve him well against the Seattle lineup. Surprisingly, the Mariners' bats against right-handed pitching aren't that bad. I mean, In fact, they're in the top half. I don't know how. This team sucks. But in the last 14 days, they're 13th in WRC+, 10th in isolated power, 17th in on-base percentage. So the Mariners not nearly as bad against right-handed pitching as I thought they've been. Bullpen-wise, both these units have been really good. Mariners falling off a bit. Here are their numbers in the last 14 days. Twins are 3rd in ERA, 7th in expected FIP. Mariners 7th and 3rd. So no edge really there. I want to see what the line does in this one before I make a final decision. I would lean either Twins or under, probably leaning towards the under more. But like I said, I want to see where the action comes in. I'll let you know what I'm definitely going to do on the live show tomorrow. Next game. Reds at Brewers. Ben Lively pitching against Freddie Peralta. Milwaukee opens up as -140 favorites here at home. Total opens up at 9. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. According to the model, we got a 2-2 tie after 5 innings. Final score 4-3 Brewers. So the good news for Ben Lively is he's been pitching better recently for sure. You can see his last 4 starts. He's got a 3.44 ERA and a 1.20 WHIP compared to the previous 3 where he had a 6.52 and a 1.55 WHIP. The problem, if you notice in his last 4 starts, he's only had 18 in the 3rd innings pitched. Really not going deep into games at all. That'd be a problem with basically any team in the league, but it's especially a problem with Cincinnati because that bullpen is just always overworked and they're dealing with bullpen usage issues night in and night out. So they need him to start pitching into the 5th, 6th inning. Here's something I absolutely hate for Ben Lively in this spot. This will be the 4th time he's pitching against the Milwaukee Brewers since June. So the 4th time he's pitching against the same lineup in less than 2 months. He's actually been okay. Against the Brewers, he's 0-2 in those 3 starts. He's got a 3.78 ERA, 1.08 WHIP, so he's actually pitched pretty well against the Brewers, but the same lineup, seeing this guy for the 4th time in less than 2 months, that's crazy. Good news for Cincinnati is the Brewers aren't doing shit against right-handed pitching recently. They're starting to look like the Brewers lineup we were seeing back in April and May. In the last 14 days, the Brewers are 27th in WRC+, 29th in isolated power, 21st in on-base percentage, so Brewers lineup really going through a rough stretch here. On the other side, we got Freddie Peralta, and he's been great against Cincinnati. His last 6 starts against the Reds, he's 3-1 with a 2.64 ERA and 0.88 WHIP. The problem is the large majority of those starts are from Freddie Peralta of the past. This guy's just not that good this year. I really can't explain why. He started off the season with 2 excellent starts at home, but look at the numbers from his last 9 home starts. Got a 5.44 ERA, 3.40 WOBA, 4.84 WHIP. I mean, he's just not the dominant pitcher we've seen in years past. But the Reds lineup is not doing much recently. That red hot June they were having is definitely in the past. On the last 14 days, the Reds are just 26th in WRC+, 28th in on-base percentage against right-handed pitching. So as much as Freddie Peralta's been struggling at home against a lineup that's not hitting righties, also a team that he's historically pitched really well against, I think Freddie will be okay. I'm going to count on him for 5 2/3 innings, 2 runs. When we get to the bullpen, there's no question the Brewers have the edge here. In fact, you can make an argument the Brewers have the best bullpen in baseball right now. On the last 14 days, they're first in basically every category. Reds have been showing signs of improvement. That bullpen was terrible about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks around the All-Star break, but on the last 14 days, they're 11th in ERA, 16th in expected FIP. Still, huge bullpen edge to Milwaukee. As far as betting this game goes, I don't know. I like the Brewers, but I hate the price. I'll say Milwaukee or pass for now. Let's see what the line does in the morning, but this is most likely going to be a pass for me. Next game. St. Louis at Arizona, Cards at D-backs. Jack Flaherty pitching against Zach Gallen. No line and no total open for this one at the time of recording. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. According to the model, we got 4-2 D-backs after 5 innings. Final score 6-4 D-backs. So I'm going to skip this one for now. Like I said, no line open yet. I'm assuming Arizona's going to be pretty decent favorites here, and I would imagine the public comes in on Arizona, but we'll see. Probably have a bet for this one on the live show tomorrow. Next game. Toronto at LA. Blue Jays Dodgers here. We got Kikuchi pitching against Tony Gonsolin. Dodgers open up as -155 favorites here at home. Total opens up at 9. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got a slight lean on LA here. 3-2 Dodgers after 5 innings. Final score 5-4 Dodgers according to the model. So Kikuchi has struggled to keep the ball in the ballpark against the current Dodgers lineup. Dodgers bats lifetime, they're hitting just 235 off Kikuchi, but with a 922 OPS and an 8.8 home run rate, which is extremely high. And Kikuchi seems to be falling off a little bit. If you look at his July numbers in comparison to his numbers in June, I mean, in June he had a 228 ERA, July it's up to a 466. WHIP is much higher, WOBA's much higher. That being said, expected FIP indicates that he's had some bad luck, and in June he had some good luck, so Take that as you will. I think we can handicap Kikuchi at about a 3.5, 4 runs per 9 type pitcher. Obviously, we know how good this Dodgers lineup has been. That being said, since July 1st, they haven't been quite as explosive against lefties that they have against righties. In fact, they're just 17th in WRC plus against left-handed pitching, 10th in isolated power, 11th in on-base percentage. If you look at the last 5 lefty starters to pitch against the Dodgers, yeah, they have an 8.88 ERA, 164 whip, so they've gotten to the last 5 lefties they faced, but want to know who they are? Martin Perez is pretty good, but Andrew Heaney, Reed Detmers, Daniel Lynch, Kyle Freeland, yeah, the Dodgers have gotten to them, but you can make an argument that Kikuchi would probably be the second best name on that list, maybe second to Martin Perez. I'm not going to sit here and say I trust Kikuchi to pitch a great game in Dodger Stadium. That might be a little unrealistic. I will say, I think we can count on him to pitch better than most people expect him to. I'll say that. On the other side, we got Tony Gonsolin, and we're just looking at the tale of 2 seasons with Gonsolin right now. His numbers from his last 6 starts in comparison to the first 9, I mean, this is kind of crazy. Through 9 starts, he had a 1.93 ERA. From his last 6 starts, 6.97. WOBA's up. Home run numbers are doubled, more than doubled. FIP's up more than a run. I mean, he just hasn't been nearly as effective. And look how extreme it gets when we isolate it to just his starts at home. His first 4 home starts of the year, he had a 1.66 ERA, 3.56 FIP. His last 3 home starts, 7.79 ERA, 3.48 WOBA, 1.33 FIP, 5.59. I mean, this is crazy. This man's just falling off a cliff. And Gonsolin's going to have his hands full in this one because the Blue Jays bats are solid. We all know that. On the last 14 days, Toronto's 12th in WRC+, 24th in isolated power, 8th in on-base percentage. I think we can count on the Blue Jays to get the Gonsolin in this one. Bullpen-wise, the Blue Jays have definitely fallen off a little bit. They were, in the month of July, they were hanging in the top 5, top 6 in most categories. If you isolate it to just the last 14 days, we're looking at 18th ERA, 27th in expected FIP. So Dodgers should have the huge edge bullpen-wise. But I think the first 5, this might be a sneaky little spot to take a shot with Toronto money line at plus money. Line's not open yet, but I'm looking at Toronto first 5 money line. I might end up playing the Blue Jays in the full game here as well. Want to see what the line does, but I'm going to say I'm leaning Toronto for this one. Next game, Pirates at Padres. This weird-ass series. We got Johan Oviedo pitching against Seth Lugo. Padres open up as heavy favorites here at home, minus 225. Total opens up at 8.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. And according to the model, we don't have a lean on the side here. We got a 3-3 tie after 5 innings. After 9 innings, 5-5 tie. So Oviedo was looking pretty good for a nice little stretch there. You can see he had a 9-start stretch with a 2.96 ERA, 3.92 FIP. But 3 of his last 4 starts have just been brutal. You can see the numbers from his last 4 starts. A 7.54 ERA, 6.46 FIP. So a definite drop-off in production from Johan Oviedo. Some more bad news for the Pirates would be Oviedo's been more dependable at home. He's got a 4.35 ERA, 120 whip at home. Those numbers jump to a 5.26 and a 1.56 on the road. This game obviously on the road in San Diego. One thing I will say is, you remember when the Padres, it was about a week and a half ago, right around the All-Star break, Padres are top 5 in basically every offensive category against right-handed pitching. Well, in the last 14 days, they've dropped a bit. On the last 14 days, they're just 14th in WRC+, 7th in isolated power, 15th in on-base percentage. Still solid numbers, but not nearly what they were looking like week and a half ago. The last 6 righty starters to pitch against the Padres, they combined for 30 1/3 innings pitched, 3.26 ERA, and a 1.22 whip. Pretty solid numbers. You want to know who those righty starters were? Quentin Priester, Alex Faedo, Matt Manning, Reese Olson, Chris Bassett, and Jose Barrios are solid, but the first 4 names on that list, those are not arms that should be giving this Padres lineup problems. So even though Johan Oviedo's been struggling, I don't think it's crazy to say he's got a shot at pitching a good game here in San Diego. On the other side, we got Seth Lugo, and on paper, this should be a super easy spot for him. He's at home against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Last 14 days, Pirates are 23rd in WRC+, 11th in isolated power is solid, but just 28th in on-base percentage against righties. That being said, look what the Pirates have done to the last few righty starters they've seen. You ready for this? So, Yu Darvish, Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Savale, 2 elite arms and 1 solid arm. Those 3 guys against the Pirates, 7.88 ERA, 4.5 home runs per 9, and a 150 whip. This Pirates lineup has been getting to righty starters, even good ones. I don't know how to bet this weird-ass game. I mean, the Pirates just make no sense, as they owned the Dodgers for a couple series. Now they own the Padres this year, apparently. So I guess I'd say Pittsburgh or pass at the big plus price. I definitely wouldn't bet the Padres. I'll say Pirates or pass next game. Orioles at Phillies. Man, this is a heartbreaking way to lose. I had Orioles last night. Just a half unit, but it was a tough loss. On this one, we got Kyle Bradish pitching against Ranger Suarez. Phillies open up as -130 favorites at home, and the total opens up at 8.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got to lean on Baltimore here. 3-2 O's after 5 innings. Final score 4-3 O's according to the model. So I'm sure you've heard by now, Kyle Bradish has been on an absolute rampage recently. Look at the numbers from his last 7 starts. A 1.62 ERA, 0.86 whip, 3.56 expected FIP. I mean, Kyle Bradish has been absolutely dominant. Look at his last 3 road starts too. A 2.12 ERA, 1.06 whip, 2.99 FIP. Those were at Tampa twice. So at Tampa, and at Yankee Stadium. Not easy places to pitch. Kyle Bradish continues to dominate. Now he goes into Citizens Bank Park and faces a Phillies lineup that hasn't been hitting right-handed pitching at all, actually. In the last 14 days, the Phillies are just 28th in WRC+, 28th in isolated power, 28th in on-base percentage against righties. The last 5 righty starters to pitch against the Phillies, now this is not including Kyle Gibson, so you can add Kyle Gibson, another good game, because he pitched good tonight. Dean Kramer, Xavier Curry, Tanner Bybee, Gavin Williams, and Corbin Burns is solid, but the other 4, those guys combined for an 0.93 ERA and an 0.82 whip against the Philadelphia Phillies. So I don't see any reason to doubt Bradish here. He's been absolutely dominant. I expect him to come out and look dominant in this one as well. On the other side, we got Ranger Suarez, and he's gone a bit cold. If you remember, Ranger Suarez he was killing it through a 6-start stretch. He had a 1.35 ERA and a 3.64 expected FIP. But his 4 starts since then, 6.14 ERA, 1.86 whip, 5.07 expected FIP, not good at all. Also, Ranger Suarez is not a guy I typically like to bet at home. This dates back to last season as well. He's just been much better on the road. Kind of reminds me of Josiah Gray in that aspect. His numbers at Citizens Bank Park this year, 5.64 ERA and a 4.70 FIP. Not terrible, but he's just been better on the road, plain and simple. Despite Christopher Sanchez pitching a pretty good game on Monday, Orioles still have excellent numbers against lefties. The last 5 lefties who start against Baltimore, 9.43 ERA, 1.57 whip, and those guys were Christopher Sanchez, Shane McClanahan, Julio Urias, Stephen Okert, kind of sucks, and Braxton Garrett. Baltimore against lefties since July 1st, 6th in WRC+, 5th in isolated power, 10th in on-base percentage. So as much as I like Ranger Suarez, and I've made a lot of money betting on Ranger Suarez this year and last year, so I like him. I just really don't like this spot for him. I think Baltimore gets to him. So I'm going right back to the O's. I know it bit me in the ass for a half unit last night, but I think I'm going to bet him a little heavier here. We're getting him at plus money. Give me the Orioles money line next game. Rangers at Astros. Andrew Heaney pitching against Framber Valdez. Houston opens up as -165 favorites here. Total opens up down at 7.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. According to the model, we got to lean on Houston here. 3-2 Astros after 5 innings. Final score 5-4 Astros. So Framber Valdez hasn't had many problems with this Texas Rangers team. Since 2020, he's made 10 starts against the Rangers, and look at these numbers. He's got a 1.75 ERA, a 0.99 whip, FIP and expected FIP numbers in the mid to high 2s. This is domination of a baseball team right here by Framber Valdez. That being said, he did pitch against the Rangers back in April, and they scored 5 runs on him, but if you take a look at what happened in that game, 4 of those runs were unearned, and keep in mind, he had a shutout through 6 innings. He went into the 7th inning, Texas loaded the bases on an error, they took Framber Valdez out, and then Houston's bullpen let all those runs in. So yeah, I mean, on paper, he let up 5 runs, just 1 earned, but in reality, he threw 6 shutout innings in that game. I know if you take a quick glance at Framber Valdez's game logs, it looks like he's been struggling, but if you notice that 3 of his last 4 starts have been on the road, look at his numbers from his last 4 starts at home. I mean, there's nothing to worry about here. His last 4 starts in Houston, he's got a 1.61 ERA and an 0.82 whip. Framber Valdez is fine. And yeah, we're all scared of the big bad Texas Rangers bats, but you know what? Look at their numbers against left-handed pitching since July 1st. They have gone downhill in this department. 24th in WRC+, 25th in OPS. So I think all signs point to Framber Valdez dealing in this spot. On the other side, we got Andrew Heaney, and it's just been a really tough couple months for this man. Started off the season on a solid note. I mean, through April and May, he had a 3.76 ERA, 1.15 whip. Things were looking great. But through June and July, his numbers are up to a 5.66 ERA and a 1.62 whip. FIP and expected FIP numbers indicate it might not be quite as bad as it looks, but there's no doubt it's been a huge drop-off in production for Andrew Heaney. And I don't know how much hope I have for Andrew Heaney in Houston here. The Astros have seen a weird amount of lefties. They've seen a ton of left-handed pitching recently. Check this out. Since the All-Star break, the Astros have already seen 5 lefty starters since the All-Star break. And they scored on basically all of them. They really lit up JP Sears, Austin Gomer, and Reed Detmers in particular. Since July 1st, the Astros are top 10 in basically every offensive category against left-handed pitching, 9th in OPS, 10th in WRC+, so the Astros should absolutely crush Andrew Heaney, right? Well, hold up, because this is where it gets a bit confusing. Andrew Heaney has actually pitched twice against the Astros this season, and he shut them out both times. Both games he threw 5 shutout innings, once in Houston and once in Texas. Now, were those just 2 lucky outings? Or does Andrew Heaney really have the Astros number? I'm personally not buying it. I mean, in fact, I think those 2 good starts just point me towards he's ultra due to get rocked. There's a reason Houston's minus 180 favorites here. I definitely like the Astros, but I don't love the price, so I'm not sure how I'm going to bet it. May go Houston minus 1.5 or a Houston double result maybe. I'll let you know for sure on the live show next game. Actually, there is no next game. We ran out of time. Like I said, as always, we'll go through all 15 games on the live show tomorrow. So if you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. If you want the final tickets we put out, which has my top bets, every single bet I'm making, where the money is, my model, stuff like that, head over to KyleKirms.com if you're interested in that. Wednesday, 15 games spread out, bunch of day games, bunch of night games. Remember to bet responsibly, and I will talk to you on Twitter.